Good morning. We all have past memories and actions and habits that we take and we have done, which lead us to the result of who we are in the present moment. However, what a lot of people don't recognize is that if they use that simple concept of knowing that these habits and actions make themselves up, they can understand that they can change themselves in the present to become the more ideal self in the future. However, we have to get to a point A first. We have to know where you're currently standing. Where are your feet? And I mean this in a literal and metaphorical way, right? So, as we discover who we are, you have to first take the steps in the backwards direction, figuring out, okay, what things do I normally do that make me who I am, and what memories have occurred that individually impacted me more than anything else or anyone else. That's where the skills come in of not only just memory, but also to be able to take these individual moments and bring them together to understand why you took that action in that moment. Once you understand that, and you can then decide if you either agree or disagree with the action you taken in the past. That's how you change yourself in the present. Because let's say I went to, I don't know, let's say you went to McDonald's for every Thursday, right? And you're like, well, I went to McDonald's on Thursday because that's how I grew up. Do I agree with how I grew up? No. Therefore, I believe the best action to take is to not eat McDonald's. That's a very simple one, right? Now, a lot of times you get more complex ones where it leads to something like a divorce, for instance, right? So you're going through a relationship, you're married, and it's going well, and then all of a sudden it just flips on its head. You have to figure out what action over time made it flip on its head. And preferably you'd be able to do this with that other person, but if you're divorced with them, that's too late. In addition to solving tougher problems like divorce, you'll actually be able to solve those problems in the present when you are capable of understanding yourself. You understand yourself, you know what your tendencies are, and you know how to counteract them without actually doing them at first. You don't have to have hindsight in order for you to become the thing that you want to be. Adding on to that, you can discover a different version of you as you manipulate yourself, but not quite manipulate, as you adjust yourself to evolve into the human being, right? A lot of people often talk about the human being and the human animal. A lot of people live in the human animal realm either because of two things. Number one, they are lazy and they don't want to take the time and skill required to conquer that problem that's impacting their life severely. Or number two, they are trying to defend themselves from those evilistic like problems, which really aren't evil. It's just a matter of, are you capable of surpassing that and becoming, therefore, arbitrarily or not, better at solving marriages, right? Bringing this point forward will hopefully help you understand the first part of being able to grasp who you are requires you to get point A, the past. It requires you to map it out, to write it out, and get the untangling of the emotional mess out of your head and put it on a paper. You don't have to necessarily organize it on the paper. That's where a lot of times people quit on it, is because they think, oh, I have to have all my problems written perfectly down on a paper. No. If anyone had to write all their problems perfectly down on paper, no one would have paper. Because no one can write down their problems perfectly. That's why we work for those things. So that way we can articulate ourselves more accurately, and therefore, if we have a problem, we can solve it much sooner rather than later. How do you think entrepreneurs make businesses succeed? They do it because they take the effort and they take the mental energy to say, okay, this is a problem. How do I solve this problem? And how do I remember that if this problem arises again, we can solve the problem? There's always those two different, I'll say bosses, right, to battle, just for simple reference, right? Because you're always going to have to deal with it internally and external, no matter what stage of life you're in, right? We can all agree that even if you're 17 like me, or if you're 47 and a half, you're going to have to deal with internal and external problems. That is just how it is. So instead of backing down and trying to shelter yourself, which we understand doesn't work on a massive global level because a lot of people try doing that, because it looks like an enticing solution, right? Like, don't let me undermine that solution, because it is a very enticing solution, since you'll be able to, if you're able to undermine all the problems and sweep underneath them, then technically you solved all of them. But the problem is that's so short-term and short-lived that by the time you, become 25, those problems that you hid under the rug, or by the time you become 50 for the 47-year-old, you'll come up the problems will come up and then arise at an even worse scale. So what you're going to be doing is burying yourself so far underground that eventually there is no return. That, I think, symbolizes the battle between us, the human beings, and the human animals, in comparison with not only the conscious and the subconscious, but how we take actions compared to how we want to take actions. Those things symbolize a sort of a war on the mind, or a war with the mind. Because there's also one more thing I want to mention, and that is, if you can have the one controllable thing of this world on your side, why wouldn't you? That is your mind. You have enough psychic energy and mental capacity, and maybe you're even physically fit, but you have enough capability to bring your mind on your side, to take your mind and control it yourself. Because if other people can control your mind, and other people are equally as powerful in their minds as you are, why can't you control your own mind? The easy answer is, oh, it's me, I know everything about me, all my weaknesses, even the ones that I would never share with anybody. Yeah, so do all those people. All those people know all their weaknesses and all the things that they would never share with anybody else, including me. And yet here I am talking to you, telling you that these things can help you become an ideal version of yourself if you have the time and balls, rather, to grab the past, understand the past, and use that as a mental horsepower or tool to take action. Now, I have gone on a couple tangents, I won't lie. I'm going to build this video together now and give you a few simple points to take away from it, okay? Number one, I don't want you, hear me out. I don't want you to mentally masturbate to everything I've just said. Meaning, I want you to take the time to maybe rewatch the video and then go and take action based upon what you know. Take action is the most important step, because remember, if you don't take action, that's building the Lamborghini but leaving it in the garage. That's not what I'm here for, obviously. So that's point number one. And point number two, I want you to know that you are an individual being with individual problems that only you, the individual, could solve, right? Because your experience of pain is different from my experience of pain. And our experience of pain is sometimes generalized and sometimes very hyper-specific to just you. So cultivate that skill to become aware, to solve the problem, and to have that conscious capability of just collaborating all of your mental willpower together to push through that objective or to push through that problem. And then a lot of times you'll recognize that that problem wasn't really a problem and it really is not that bad. All right. On the other side, solving your problems leads greatness. Simple quote. I think I've heard it a trillion times. I have no clue who it's from, but that's going to be it for me. Thank you. And as always, we're here to help you help them.